Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. I don't know how to rate this episode. I really don't. There was some good moments. There was some good moments. Um, between Carly and Liz, and the reason I was sitting there is if you go way back, Carly could not stand Liz, and vice versa. Um, I mean, granted, this all stems from the fact that, at the time, Jason couldn't pretty much look at anyone else, any other woman, or dare to put any other woman ahead of Carly. Even if that said woman was married to Jason, Carly still came first. Um, yeah, just even Smith to think about this, like, damn, that woman was self-centered. I mean, she still comes across somewhat self-centered, but not as bad as she was way back then. But um, so Josh, Cam, Liz, and Carly talked to Alexis as far as running the story, and then they asked the mothers to wait outside or go and do whatever. So they're downstairs, and they're just kind of just talking about how proud they are of each other, respective kids, and just giving compliments to each other back and forth and just laughing. And it was a nice moment when you know the history, when you know the um the fights and the arguments between those two. I mean, they did a nice good little flashback. Here's the thing, I didn't know how far they were going to go back. I thought they were going to go back to like Tamra days, but it clearly wouldn't have made any sense. And damn, Carly has been on this show for a hot minute. um they had a little flashback of them calling each other's names and things of that nature. So it was a nice moment. It was a good moment. Um, Now while Alexis and they talk about running the story, Cam is having reservations. Jocelyn wants the story to move forward, and Cam is like, "Yo, listen, let's just kind of do nothing, and eventually it'll go away." So Alexis gives him some time to talk, and in the end, Jocelyn's like, listen, I don't want to be a victim. And if we hide, if we do nothing, that's how I'm going to sit there and feel. That's how I'm going to sit there and feel. So, she tells Cam, I want you to sit there and stand out with me and fight for me, fight with me, as opposed to just kind of just ducking our heads down and just, hoping that things are going to blow over. So, they start with, Alexis come back, they start off with the interview, they get the police involved. So, they're going to be moving forward. Now, of course, at this point, we all know that the evidence is going to point towards Trina, the new Trina. So that should be interesting. I gotta say, the way that Marshall came at Sonny, you would sit there and think that like Sonny screwed him over in another life or something like that, or in the past or something. Um, this is after a run-in with those two. Um, Marshall didn't like the fact that Sonny was talking to TJ, even though Sonny was there because his daughter, had like a sprained hand or something like that. So, Sonny was like, "Yo, listen, I'm here because he's treating my daughter." And Marshall's all like, "Oh, well, there's a bunch of other doctors in there. Go and see one, go and see somebody else." So I kind of give him the same look that Sonny's like, "All right, well, what? Pretty much like, what are you gonna do about it if I don't?" And he walks off. Um, Now I kind of sit there and look at that situation. I was like, Marshall, you might want to, like, you might want to be a little more careful with Sonny. I mean, he's not Joey. You might have waxed the floor with Joey, but Sonny's a different breed. Um, there's I was sitting there. there's a point where Avery's and they're asking about Carly, and long story short, they do this whole, I guess I was gonna say this a Family Matters, this whole Full House moment about everyone's gonna love her and yada yada yada. So it was a nice little good moment. Um, when the checkup is done, um, Avery's just running around, just being a kid running around, runs into Marshall, and Marshall drops his meds. And Sonny picks it up, and Marshall's like, I need that back. So Sonny looks at the prescription for some odd reason. I was like, why are you looking at his prescription? I feel like that's. I mean, if you happen to glance at it, that's one thing, but it's like he literally like eyeballed it, like, and then like gave it back to him. I'm like, what are you doing? Um, Marshall seemed like he was upset about that. Marshall was also talking to TJ because TJ, asked Sonny like, "Yo, what's he asked him like, what's going on with y'all two? Like, what's like what was Marshall talking about?" But yeah, he does run in. TJ does run into Marshall at some point, and Marshall's like, "Yo, you need to sit there and stay away from people like that." And TJ talks about he was really there for him. There was a point in time he was really there for him, really looked out for him. And Marshall was like, "Well, people like them, like people like him, they don't sit there and let you live down, what they've done for you, and will kind of sit there and throw it in your face and kind of use it and this, that, and third. So just stay away from him. And if he gives you problems, I'm like, if he gives him problems, what are you going to do?" The, and I say that frustratingly, but in reality, we still don't know that much about Marshall. And as I was sitting there watching this whole thing play out with Curtis and Drew finding out, some inconsistencies in Marshall's background, during his background check. So my question of the day is, how many people are still interested in Marshall's story? Like, how many people are still like, yo, I want to sit there and see where this is going? And how many people are just like, I'm just kind of over it at this point. I'm personally still interested, but I know a lot of people are just kind of checked out because it's just been going on so long, and we are getting, well, nothing pretty much. We haven't really got that much from Marshall's background, stuff for the stuff that he said, and he's been known to, well, let's be honest, lie. So, and I want to talk quickly about Drew and Curtis. In the beginning, Drew's like, "Yo, I found some stuff about Marshall," and at first, Curtis is like, "Listen, the food's just me. I'll sit there and just kind of rock with him, but I got family to consider, so I can't do that." So it was some sort of background check as far as where Marshall lived. He lived somewhere overseas or whatever. But the thing is, he put down his real name. He didn't use an alias or anything like that. And Curtis was like, "Yo, if you're in WITSEC, then like they wouldn't allow you to use your real name." And then he's like, "Unless he was never in WITSEC to begin with." So you look at that and it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? I mean, Drew's like, well, maybe, he was abroad and he got careless, this, that, and the third. It could have been 100 different reasons of why he used his real name as opposed to him using an alias. And all that told me was nothing. That told me absolutely nothing about Marshall's past, except for it's shady at best and there's not really a lot of stuff known. So in a lot of ways, I can kind of look at this scene between Drew and Marshall and be like, this scene didn't do a damn thing for me. I learned nothing about his past, and they're just as in the dark as they were before. Awesome. I'm so glad that I tuned in for this part of the show, which gave me absolutely nothing. So Spencer is not there playing chess or no, he's playing rummy or whatever, card games with another enemy. And Harmony is like, "Oh, Ryan want to talk to you." And I'm like, I know you're his caregiver, but like, why would he want to sit there and talk to a serial killer? Like, why? And of course, Homer's like, hey, listen, you don't have to if you don't want to, yada yada yada. But Spencer's like, all right, I'll do it. So um, they start playing chess. And long story short, Ryan's like, listen, we could be friends. We could sit there and help each other out. I can help you out as far as breaking up Ava away from Nicholas because it's something that we both want. And Spencer's like, well, why would I want to sit there and be friends with you? Why would I want to like? I don't like your energy, B. I don't want anything to do with you. Why would I want to mess with you in any capacity? Now, after Nicholas is there talking to Laura about Spencer coming back to Windermere, he comes to go and see him because apparently it's his last day. I'm sitting there thinking, like, damn, that was so short. Or maybe it wasn't. I can't tell. But anyway, he comes to see him, and automatically they start arguing about Ava. It got to a point where I was like, man, this is, first of all, this whole, him being mad at Ava is so dumb. It's so stupid because it's been so long since Ava, quote unquote, betrayed him by, agreeing not to testify against Valentine in order to fix her face. I'm like, bro, this is like extremely old news. I mean, I can understand him being still, to some extent, kind of upset with Nicholas about him faking his own death. To some extent. But even that, after all, I was like, bro, that's been like a hot minute, B. You still mad about that? I know. Here's the thing. I know soap operas, as far as time is concerned, runs a lot differently than us watching it. Damn, this whole thing is just so old. Hell, even them arguing about Abel's like, bro, seriously, like, this is so stupid at this point. Um. Anyway, they table the whole argument and they proceed to go home. Now, before that, Esme packed her bags and she was like, all right, I'm leaving, I'm moving out. I'm sitting there thinking, where? Like, I mean, is she even paying? I know laws, well, not so much as laws, like, but just like certain like reality things don't really always kind of exist when it comes to a soap operas. I mean, if we're gonna be honest, like, how is Esme paying for college? Is Spencer flipping the bill? Like, what is going on with that? Because when she packs her bags and she's like, all right, I'm leaving, I'm moving out, I'm like, with what money? I mean, you're an intern. Last time I checked, most don't get paid. And if they do, they're damn sure not getting paid enough to, like, afford your own place. But you're gonna live in the dorms? I'm speechless at this point. Anyway, Laura talks to her, and Esme's all like, "Well, I'm leaving," and Spencer's wants, he wants to be with Trina, this, that, and the third, and his friends, um, you know, abandoned, they don't like me, this, that, and the third, and I came halfway around the world to be with him, and um, he clearly wants to be with somebody else. Now, here's the thing: if you took Esme out the picture, right? Crazy, psychotic, sociopath, Esme. You put her with somebody else. If Spencer did all that stuff to someone else, we'll be looking at him like, bro, you. I'm not gonna sit there and say the D word. And no, it's not that, but it's canine. Um, but we'd be sitting there looking at him like he's a scumbag. So, hearing all that stuff, Laura feels a bit of empathy on top of that. A bit of compassion on top of that. She kind of realized that, you know, um, Esme has been, good for him as far as trying to repair the relationship between him and Nicholas. So she's like, listen, don't leave unless you really feel like it's over between you two. Like you still feel conflicted. You're not 100% sure, and it's worth it. You know. I mean, to be honest, I kind of look at this situation like. I mean, Greg, I look at this situation like, well, if that wasn't your grandson, would you still be snitching trying to push for a relationship or her to be in his life? If if that wasn't your grandson? Like in some sort of ways, like if Esme was a different person, I would sit there and say that's a bit selfish, to be honest. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think that's about it. Whenever I'm sitting there kind of rating these episodes, like if they're good, if they're bad, sometimes I gotta kind of adjust my expectations because you look at an episode like this, and at first glance, you're kind of just like, well, this episode was okay, kind of middle of the road. But then you take a look more closer at some of the little moments, and you kind of realize that they're actually, it's a decent, it's a good episode by little moment standards. Kind of weird to sit there and say, but you look at a scene with Liz and Carly, and you realize just how far they've come from back in the days where they couldn't stand each other, calling each other all sorts of names, to sitting at a table years later talking about how proud they are of the kids and how much they admire each other of the way that they raised their children. You look at a scene like that, and it's like it's great because back then, when I was watching this in high school, they they're really at each other. I mean, to be fair, Carly was pretty much at anyone that was associated with Jason. As I was sitting there thinking about Carly and thinking about the flashback and just like how long Laura Ray has been on the show, I kind of realized that I've been watching this show for a long time, even longer than Laura Ray. I've been watching this show. I think her name is Sarah. I think her name is Sarah. The woman, she came back. She was Carly. Then she came back and she was Claudia Sakara. Now I sit there and think about it. I have not seen her do anything in a while, and I wonder what she's up to at this point. But it's not to think about all the different Carlys and stuff like that. And everyone has their favorite. Some people like again, Sarah. I think that's her name, Sarah Brown. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. Some people like Tamara. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Tamara Bay or Tamara something. Some people like Laura Wright. And some people like the person that came before Laura Wright. I don't remember her name, but I remember she was. I think that she was probably the only one universally that we can all sit there and kind of look at and be like, well, I mean, I respect you trying, but it was pretty rough for a while. It was really rough, and rumors had it that Sonny was. Well, Maurice Bernard was not there really defending her because they really came at that woman's head. Um, I can't remember her name, but I think at this point we've been all watching the show for a while, so you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, that's pretty much about it. So with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank everyone for watching. Be safe. Let me know your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.